Hi, my name is Tony Miller, and today I'm going to give you an introduction to my game Elements. Elements is a resource management, engine-building card game for 2 to 4 players that plays in 30 to 45 minutes. Players are working to complete alchemical formula and prove their mastery over the elements to earn the most victory points. Now, before anything else, let's go ahead and set the game up, and I'll give you a walkthrough of the components and how they function inside the game. The element deck is actually comprised of cards that feature the 4 basic elements: air, earth, fire, and water. There's an identical number of each of the elements inside the deck, and these will be used at the beginning of every turn. The formula cards feature the alchemical formulas that you can create to score victory points over the course of the game. At the top, we have the title of the particular alchemical formula. Down the side here are the elements that are required to complete that formula. They will always be 5, and they will always be the basic 4 elements found in the element deck. In the bottom corner here, we have the number of victory points that this particular alchemical formula is worth at the end of the game. Across the bottom is the dominant element type for this alchemical formula. In this case, earth dominant. You can tell what the dominance is simply by looking at the icons and seeing which one is the most common. In this case, there are 3 earth, 1 fire, and 1 water, so this is an earth dominant alchemical formula. The last piece of text in the middle here is the special ability that this particular alchemical formula gives you when you complete it, and then again when you complete other alchemical formulas later on in the course of the same game. Next, we will take the void and aether chips and place those in the center of the table. These are 2-sided chips, the white side being aether, the black side being void. Aether chips can be used as a wild, meaning that they can take the place of any other element type during the course of the game. They also can be used to gain a void at any other time simply by flipping them over to their black side. Void, the black side of the chip, can be used to fuel various alchemical formulae throughout the game. Both void and aether count as 1 victory point at the end of the game. The next thing we'll do is set up the elemental mastery tokens. Now, a certain amount of elemental mastery tokens are used in the course of each game. We're setting up a 3-player game, so we're going to use 9 each of the air, earth, fire, and water elemental mastery tokens. Whenever you complete a formula, you will gain a mastery token in the element that it is dominant in. So if incombustible oil was the alchemical formula that you completed, you would gain an earth elemental mastery token for doing so. Next, we select a start player at random and give them the active player card. The active player card is double-sided. One side features the symbol of the game elements and is the side that will be used during the game. The other side features the setup rules for setting up the game as you see here. In this case, I will be the first player of the game, so I will take this card. The final components for the game of elements are the reference cards, which are 2-sided. They cover the turn order of the game as you play it, and how aether and void are used, as well as the endgame conditions and the endgame scoring. And now Elements is set up and ready to play. We'll begin the first turn. I will be the start player for this walkthrough game. The first thing I need to do is I need to take the formula cards and deal 5 formulae out to each player. So I'm going to do that now. In this case, we're playing a 3-player game. Now, each player will take a look at their hand and will choose 2 cards to discard. In this case, I'm going to discard my antitoxin and my potion of water walking, and I will keep my potion of pass wall, my water breathing potion, and my potion of invisibility. These will be sent to the discard. The other players will do the same with their hands. Now that everybody's chosen the formula that they wish to keep and that they wish to discard, we'll give each player 3 void tokens to start the game. And setup is complete. Setup for elements is now complete, and we'll begin the first turn of the game. As the active player, the first thing I will do is I will take 8 element cards from the element deck. In this case, because it's a 3-player game, it's specifically 8 element cards. So I will take those cards from the element deck, two of each. Look at that. Now, as the active player, I will take these cards and sort them into a number of stacks equal to the number of players. In this case, 3. Keeping in mind that the stacks will be chosen by everybody else before I get one. So, I really need air. As you can see, I have a lot of air on all of my formula. So, I'm going to put the 2 air in a stack. Now, to incentivize the other players taking the stacks that aren't the 2 air, I am going to place the cards like this. Now, normally they would be getting 3 elements from this. However, opposing elements cannot be collected at the same time. Since both of these stacks have a fire and a water, we'll actually discard the fire and water elements to the element discard pile and replace each with an aether. Now these are the stacks that the players will have to choose from. An earth and an aether, an earth and an aether, and 2 air. Remember, I'm hoping to get the 2 air. So player 2 will choose their stack now. He takes an earth and an aether. Player 3 now also takes an earth and an aether. And I'm very happy because I got the 2 air that I wanted. And I will add them to my hand. All the players add the selected cards to their hands. And now, starting with me, I have the option to complete any of the formula in my hand. I can only complete 1 a turn. And at this point, I can't actually complete any. I only have 2 elements, and I have 3 formula. Now, each of these formula can also be used as an element based on what their dominant type is. However, even there, I only have 4 elements, and remember, it takes 5 elements to complete a formula. So, I will not be able to complete anything on this turn, and I will pass. Player 2 and Player 3 will also do likewise. At that point, we will each draw additional formula cards based on whether or not we completed a recipe. In this case, none of us completed a recipe, so each of us will draw 2 additional cards. So I will take my 2 and get a stone skin oil and a basilisk acid. Player 2 will now draw their 2 formula cards, and they will get a Mists of Scrying and a Greek Fire. Player 3 will draw their 2 cards, and they will get a Glow Rod and an Elixir of Giant Growth. Now, to end the turn, I will take my active player marker and I will pass it to the left, or clockwise around the table, to player 2, who will now become the active player for round 2. So round 2 will begin, and player 2 will follow the same process. He will draw 8 cards from the element deck. Player 2 has completed their sorting. They've created 1 stack of 2 fire and 1 earth, 2 air and 1 water, and the final stack is 2 water. None of these combinations create aether, as there are no opposing elements in any of them. Now players will select their stacks, starting with player 3. Player 3 will take the 2 air and 1 water stack and add it to his hand. I will now take the 2 fire and 1 earth stack and add it to my hand. And player 2 will end up with the 2 water that he set out to get. Now, we are going to go ahead and complete recipes. Player 2 is now going to complete Undyne from his hand. This formula requires 2 water, 1 fire, 1 air, and an earth. So from his hand, he is going to play 1 earth and 2 water elements. And then he will also use his Greek fire and his Mists of Scrying. The Greek fire counts as a fire, and the Mists of Scrying counts as an air. This allows him to have all 5 elements that he needs to complete Undyne. All the cards he uses to complete the formula will be discarded to their respective piles. And now he will gain 1 water mastery for completing a water dominant formula. Then he will trigger the special ability on that formula to gain an additional Aether. This is the one formula that player 2 is allowed to complete during this turn, and we will now move on to player 3. Player 3 is going to complete the Stone of Sight formula. He will take this formula and place it where everybody can see. Stone of Sight requires 3 earth and 2 air to complete. He's going to use 2 air from his hand, 1 earth from his hand, an elixir of giant growth, and 1 aether. This will give him the 5 elements that he needs. Note, he could have used the Philosopher's Stone instead of the Aether. However, he wants to complete that on a later turn, so he'd rather hang on to that formula. All of the cards used to complete the formula will be discarded to their respective piles, and the Aether will go back into the pool in the middle. Now, player 3 will add this recipe to his tableau and gain an Earth Mastery for doing so. Now he can trigger the special ability of his formula if he wishes to. In this case, he does, and he will lose the Earth Mastery that he just gained in order to take 2 Void. He'll add those to his Void pile, and his turn is complete. Player 1, unfortunately, does not have the element cards that he needs to complete a formula this turn, and he will choose not to complete one. Now, starting with player 2, who again is the active player, each player will draw formula cards to replenish their hand. Since player 2 completed a recipe this turn, he will draw 1 formula card and add it to his hand. Player 3 also completed a formula this turn, so he will add 1 formula card to his hand. Player 1 did not complete a recipe this turn, and so he will draw 2 formula cards to his hand. Again, as the last action of the round, player 2 will now pass the active player marker to player 3, who will then start the next round by drawing element cards from the element deck, sorting them into piles, and continuing the turns in the same way. We're now going to fast forward a little bit to show you a game in the later stages to cover some more advanced rules topics. As you can see, we fast forwarded the game to the final round. The final round was actually triggered by player 2 when he completed the 6th formula in his tableau. Whenever a player completes 6 formulas in a 3-player game, or whenever any of the mastery piles run out of chips, one final round will be played. We're going to begin that round now. Player 3 is the active player, and so he's going to start by drawing from the element deck. Player 3 has completed his sorting, and he's chosen to make all 3 stacks each create an Aether. So we'll remove the cards that create Aether and add an Aether token to each stack. Player 1 chooses to take an Aether and a Fire. Player 2 chooses to take an Aether and an Earth. And Player 3 will take one Aether. We're now going to watch as Player 3 completes a formula and then triggers the entire engine that he's built over the course of the game. Player 3 is going to complete Jin's protection from his hand. He's going to do this by using Air, Earth, the single Aether that he earned in this turn, Phoenix's Breath, and Sylph. He will place the Jin's protection at the end of his engine, gaining himself an Air Mastery. Now we will trigger his entire tableau in order from left to right. First, Alchemist Fire will trigger, and he will gain a Fire Mastery. Then, Elixir of Life will trigger, and he will gain a Water Mastery. Then, Philosopher's Stone will trigger, and he will gain an Earth Mastery. He will then lose that Earth Mastery that he just gained to gain 2 additional Void. He will now lose a Water Mastery to gain 2 additional Void. Then, he'll lose 1 of his Void and gain an Aether. This completes Player 2's final turn of the game. Player 1, unfortunately, does not have the resources to complete his final formula. While he has 2 elements and an Aether, that's not the 5 required to complete this Mithril. This was his final turn of the game. Player 2 is now going to complete Azoth using 3 water, a tonic of cold resistance, and 1 Aether. He's going to place this at the beginning of his tableau, and he will gain 1 Water Mastery for doing so. Now, he is going to trigger his engine, starting with the Azoth. He'll lose 1 Void and gain 1 Aether. Now, he'll try to trigger Mists of Memories to gain 1 Air Mastery. However, there's no Air Mastery remaining, so that will fail. Next, he'll choose not to trigger the Elixir of Titan Strength. However, he will trigger his Lightning Speed Potion to force Player 3 to lose an Air Mastery and take 2 Void. This will prevent Player 3 from earning the 5 victory point bonus for having 1 of each element type completed at the end of the game. Now Player 2 will lose 1 Water Mastery to gain 2 Void. And then he will gain 2 Aether. Aether and Void are not limited in the game, and as such, the fact that we ran out of tokens here is not prevent him from scoring points the way Mastery tokens do. And that will end Player 2's turn and end the final round of the game. We're now going to move on to final scoring. Counting up Player 1's final score, we can see that he has 27 points from formulas. Looking at the masteries, he has 5 Fire Mastery, which is enough to earn him first place and the 10-point bonus for having first place in the Fire Mastery. He has 3 Air Mastery tokens, which is enough to earn him second place in the Air Mastery, earning him 5 points. In addition, he has 6 Void tokens and 1 Aether token for another 7 points, bringing him up to a total score of 49 points. Player 2 scored 25 points from his formula. These 5 Air Mastery tokens secure him first place in Air Mastery, earning him 10 bonus points. He has 4 Earth tokens, securing him first place in Earth Mastery, which earns him another 10 bonus points. This single Water Mastery token is enough for him to get the second place bonus for Water Mastery, earning him another 5 points. He also has 6 Aether and 5 Void, earning him 11 more points, for a total of 61 points. Player 3 scores a total of 22 points from formulas. His 4 Fire Mastery are enough to secure him second place in Fire for 5 bonus points. His 3 Water are enough to secure him first place in Water Mastery for 10 bonus points. The single Earth token secures him second place in Earth Mastery for another bonus 5 points. And he has 22 Void and 1 Aether that he collected over the course of the game for another 23 points, giving player 3 a total of 65 points and the victory. So, congratulations, player 3. That was Elements. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're looking for more information on Elements, you can find my contact information, specifically my email address, in the doobly-doo below. Thank you.